ancient For Fantasy's Sake show. I am one of your hosts, Doug Green. I am along with Mr. Chris Steele, and this time we are going to be talking about HBO's new show, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I almost forgot what it was called there for a second.
You were thinking.
I was. It was the hamster was spinning there real hard. Um, so we decided to try and like have a little chat about this show. It's not going to be any. You're not going to find any kind of great, you know, reviews or deep lore spoilers or anything unless those are coming from Chris, because they're sure not coming from me. Um, but yeah, let's kind of jump in and see, Chris. Kind of, what's your relationship with Game of Thrones? You've read the books, or you're just a TV show guy? You know, kind of where are you coming from?
I picked up the shows pretty early, but I've never read any of the books. I've heard the idea behind the books, and I think that's fascinating. Just having each chapter come from a different character's perspective and kind of sharing it that way. I think that's fascinating, but I've never read the books, and I don't feel like I have a need to read the books having watched all of the show. But knowing that this Knights of the Seven Kingdom was kind of like a novella of it, maybe that would be better as a way to start because maybe something a little bit shorter. It doesn't feel like quite the undertaking a whole Game of Thrones book reading session would go. Also, I mean, if George R. R. Martin wants me to read with some of these books, maybe he should start finishing some of them at some point. So if he wants that, let's throw down that gauntlet and get started right away.
Yeah, I tried to read them. I think I made it halfway through the first chapter of the first book and couldn't do it. It was just, I like fantasy, but there's world building and then there's like way too much taking your time, and he was definitely more of the latter. So yeah, it was. I couldn't do that. I'm strictly a show person myself. I've watched a lot of podcasts or heard a lot of podcasts, watched some review videos, about the original stuff, and then also for the newer version. But yeah, this one we decided to kind of jump in both feet and see what and kind of see what we thought, coming into it a little bit blind. So what was kind of your initial impressions of it?
I really loved this take on things because at the beginning of things, you get kind of that pullback to make everything seem small. You're out in the middle of a field. There's nothing else going on other than this one character. And that's so different from the other worlds that were given with Game of Thrones, where you need to understand everybody's ideology, where they come from, the political intrigue. I think that they do a really good job at one point when Dunk is going to this tournament of showing just how far away this is taking place from the castle, that this is an as a single person's journey. This isn't going to branch off and shoot into a bunch of other characters and what's going on with them. This is going to be one person and what their undertaking is. At least that's the way I feel coming out of episode one.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming with that, and it's very a tight knit show. It's very much focused on our two leads of Dunk and Egg. Um, and even in all of the behind the scenes stuff they're talking about, they wanted to kind of take the worldview and kind of flip it on its head so that it's not, you're not dealing with nobles and kings and all that stuff. You're down here with the common folk, seeing kind of what their lives are like.
And I think that's kind of a blank slate. I think that's what people who are watching some of these like larger like franchises do, that is more rewarding for fans than maybe just another installment of here comes one of the characters you're not quite sure about. I think that's why WandaVision really resonated with a lot of people. Is it was something different, it was something unique, and it was something where they hadn't done that before. You think about Rogue One, that's some people's favorite outing of the Star Wars franchises. It was different. It gets away from like just little things like the introductory scroll isn't a part of Rogue One. So you're just looking for those little departures where you're being told this is different, and that makes it feel a little fresher to you.
Mhm.
Uh, I know I really liked Game of Thrones, but I have my problems with House of the Dragon. I don't know if you're a big fan of that. I'm assuming you are because you're Doug.
Mhm.
But it just I like where they're going with this one so far, and I think we got to talk about the scene that they have right at the outset that sets the tone for it, which is Dunk takes a dump,
Yeah.
and that build up to we're going on an adventure. Here comes the big main theme. We're getting all geared up for it, and it's not what you think it's going to be. That kind of subverting your expectations is really, I thought, was a nice tone setter, especially the way the promotional material for this show came out. Is it made you think this is a little bit funny? They're not taking themselves so seriously all the time right now.
See, and I sit on the other side of the fence of that. Of they said it was supposed to be funny. I didn't find any of it funny at all. I didn't find the poop funny. I didn't find the spitting funny. I was like, when is this going to get funny? And it just never did, except for when Egg was making fun of Dunk. That was the only time that I'm a smart ass at heart. So I kind of, kids speaking my language. So, but the rest of it, I really kind of struggled with finding that that humor that they kept telling me was there, and I'm like, I guess I have a different brand of humor than these guys do because I didn't think it was quite as funny. I got them trying to juxtapose it, but
Yeah.
I didn't find the humor in it.
Yeah, and I don't think I think little gestures is about all the Game of Thrones can do. It's not going to be a knee slapper by any means because the show takes itself so seriously. But I think even just like little things like the story about the chair, and if you're lying about being a knight, you're going to have to sit on this thorn chair, and then him being like, oh, they're taking it seriously, and that sounds like it's an actual thing because this is Game of Thrones and awful things happen to people all the time. And then him being like, there's no such thing as that. It's like that's kind of a good little move of you don't really know what to anticipate with a thing like this.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I didn't kind of think of it that way, but yeah, they are kind of making kind of those subtle twists of you expect because it's Game of Thrones, you expect the gore and the violence and the boobs, and we really haven't seen a lot of that. At least in episode one, we may see some of that probably later on when he actually gets into the fighting pit. But early on, it's very much. I found it kind of stagnant, to be quite honest. I didn't kind of feel the rhythm of it. I didn't find the humor in it, so I was kind of struggling along with episode one.
I can get that. It feels like this is a character that is definitely looking for direction, and they've been told their entire lives what to take that direction in. I think it's also interesting that we get a lot of flashbacks of, certain scenes where Dunk is telling something that happened. I think we're seeing when we get those scenes of things that happened that he did witness, that we do get those like instant flashbacks or cutaways to them, but then we never see brings up, oh, he made me a knight with his dying breath. We don't see that happen. So I think that's interesting. I think they're laying the groundwork for a lot of different things with this. And I also thought the interactions with Baratheon are really fun too, because Baratheon is like, thinking about what do you want? Like, that's essentially what a lot of Game of Thrones is what's their angle, or what are they trying to get from me? What do I need to give to them? But here's this guy who just wants to show up at a party and get some food,
Mhm.
and I think that's why he ends up at the head table wearing his crown at the end of things. He's just kind of enamored with this person who doesn't have any sort of direction the way the rest of King's Landing works, or any of these other larger groups that have an agenda that needs to be pushed, that needs to be continued or forced to happen. It's all about just this one person looking for meaning in their life, and they think they're going to get it through this tournament, and we'll see if that's true or not.
Yeah, yeah, he really is, by all intents and purposes, a free agent. He doesn't really
Hmm.
like the Lord that he's reporting to. He's doesn't have some kind of an agenda. He's really kind of out on his own. And I know they said like in the behind the scenes, he's kind of out on his own for his first time. We saw him, um, bury his master. But that was he really is kind of trying to figure it out. And from what we see in the flashbacks, like he's his squire, but he's not really kind of teaching him to be a knight. He's just kind of using him kind of as a
Yeah,
squire. He's not trying to better him. He's not trying to push him along a path. And so when he kind of gets turned out on his own, he's kind of like, oh crap, this is what I wanted, but now what do I do with it? Kind
yeah.
of thing.
Well, I think you even get that in the interactions where he doesn't know how to ask like somebody that his former master did a service to for a favor.
Mhm.
Like he's asking or trying to get his attention. He finally gets his attention and he's just like, well, lots of people got injured in the name of fighting for this battle. What he's just another knight. I don't care.
Right.
So he doesn't even know how to ask for the thing that he needs. And I think to your point, there's another cutaway where he's talking about, hey, you're going to make me a knight one day, right? And then there's this long pregnant pause that follows. And then we cut away from that completely. It just abandons it like mid thought because I think there wasn't really any real intention there.
Yeah. And I think too when he was trying to ask for that favor, I think I think what we see is two dynamics going on there of the event was big in his mind because it happened to his knight, to his
Yeah.
master, but to them, he was just cannon fodder before cannons, sword
Yeah.
fodder. um, he was just another red shirt, another body, and so he didn't think that there was all that big of a deal. And so we are getting that juxtaposition of he's lived a very small life. He's had some things happen to him, but it's really been kind of him and his night, and he doesn't have like I don't want to say he doesn't have like a big worldview because he's clearly been some places and seen some battles, but he's still quite naive
Yeah.
in how to approach the rest of the world.
Hmm. I think you see that as well when he's just watching the two guys kind of battling or getting ready to be a part of this tournament, and he's just overwhelmed by like the fact that they actually know how to wield their sword. We've never seen him actually swing a sword or do anything up to this point, so we don't know what his level of like accomplishment is there. He says that his master taught him everything that he knew, but we have no idea. And he looks very overwhelmed in that moment. Like the I can't remember if it's his brother or if it's his cousin that is the one who's getting beat up on during the whole interaction. But he's like, you fight very well, and it's like he's the guy who got just absolutely handed to him a moment ago, and you're praising him, so that's your level of like competency. There is, I wish I could be as good as the guy who's getting the crap beat out of him right now.
Yeah, yeah. That's concern, coming for later when he's needs to be fighting other folks, and he has to win because they talk about his economic state. He literally doesn't have enough money if he loses to buy back his stuff.
Yeah.
So he's literally gambling his entire life on this tournament where he is almost certainly outclassed and definitely outgunned.
Hmm. Well, I think at the open, you get him doing a rundown of what his options are, and he just doesn't have any options really. He doesn't know what's next, and he's looked down upon because they're talking about the hedge knights being the sad knights. So you already kind of get people looking down their nose at him just for what he is, but they dress him very shabbily. He takes that bath in the creek, and then he comes out of it, and you think that he probably smells as good, if not worse, than before he took that bath in the creek. And so I thought that was kind of interesting there.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was probably one of the One Piece, that and the Baratheon dancing, which we'll get to. I thought those were kind of the two humorous moments where he's in there and then he comes out and he's trying to like beat the smell out of his clothes and he whiffs it and it's still bad and he goes back to beating him on the rock. And I'm like, that was pretty funny because he was just like, he clearly doesn't know what he's doing. Like he was taught things, but it's like he's still missing big chunks of the education. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, he knows how to saddle a horse, but he may not know how to wipe his own butt, quite literally.
Yeah. and, and everybody has knowledge gaps, and I wonder if that's where the dynamic has to come in of Dunk and Egg, where like we have kind of an unknown in this character other than that they don't have anywhere else to be and nobody else will take them. So what is this character going to offer? And is it just going to come down to sheer luck? Kind of like they alluded to, the luck is theirs with the star going overhead. I don't know that they have much outside of luck because of where they're at in the world and where they're at kind of, uh, I don't know, with nowhere else to go.
Right. Yeah. It's basically Dunk's kind of gambled his kind of future on this tournament, and then Egg is gambling his future on Dunk, um,
Hmm.
trying to go for it because he's like, I want to be a squire, but nobody else will take me, so I'm kind of stuck with you, and we'll kind of see how this goes until I can upgrade, I guess, or something. Um, but yeah, I mean, I do kind of like the fact that they really kind of juxtapose those two of being kind of the odd couple of Egg has clearly been around the block a couple of times. He kind of understands how the world works. He's a mouthy little shit, to be quite honest. Um, you know, and basically all Dunk is trying to do, Dunk is repeating the words that his knight said, but not. He's trying to do the things without the understanding behind them.
Hmm.
So he's he's his heart's in the right place, but he doesn't quite know why, and he doesn't quite know how. So he's just kind of like stumbling towards it. He's the I think we're going to see of this series that he is going to be the epitome, the visualization of the guy who uses the wrong formula and gets the right answer.
I could be. And I mean, how many characters in Game of Thrones have we seen that are like pure in their conviction? They care about
One, and they
like
kill him off.
doing the right thing. Yeah, that's a hard one in Game of Thrones to be the one trying to do the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
and also like following through on it too.
Yeah, yeah. Because at some point in this world, you have to get your hands dirty, and he is still seeing the world through kind of those rose-colored glasses. I'm going heavy into the metaphors tonight, but yeah, he's still seeing it very much, almost childlike in a way,
Yeah.
where Dunk has, like I said, has been around the block a few times, has seen some stuff, and kind of has a more of the gravitas about it, and can provide him with more of a reality of the way that things work. And I think that's going to be what we see as we kind of go through this short season of just kind of how that dynamic works and how they kind of build off of each other, of Dunk's hope versus the world weariness of Egg, and how that kind of those two together will kind of push the narrative forward.
Yeah. I think it's good that there is a Game of Thrones series where we are getting away from, you know, the royalty of it all, because I know eventually we're gonna get there, but it's nice to just have it be people, because I think we see a lot of the shows basically focusing on the jockey or the wheel, if you have it, of who's going to end up on top, who's trying to get to the top, what are they doing to get there. This is just somebody who wants a place in that wheel. They aren't looking for anything more. They want their own place. And what does it take to just be a person in this world?
Mhm. One of the comments that I saw, I think it was on Instagram, maybe it was on Threads, um, but her name is Fantastic Frankie. She does a lot of pop culture reviews and stuff. And she made it an interesting point about how in this time period, especially when he went and talked to um, the women, when the one that called him kind of a sad little knight, uh,
Hmm.
how in this time period, if you're not wealthy, you're selling your body in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Whether as in the bedroom or in his case, as a knight trying to use that body to, you know, do whatever it is that he's trying to do, which is still a little. He's like, I want to be a good knight, and that's still pretty broad. Like he still needs to kind of narrow down that focus a little bit. I think that is again part of that naivete that we see with him is he's still like I want to be a good person. Well, what does that mean, and how do you get there? And he's going to find out that as they say that straight and narrow path that your parents showed you turned into 1,000 winding roads becomes just that in front of it. Now the
Hmm.
choices are his.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have an even bigger topic to talk about, Doug, because we don't even know what to call this show exactly yet.
No.
So we got to figure that out at some point here.
Yes, we do. I yeah, we like the for fantasy sake portion of this. Um, I think unsanctioned is good. I think the Hedge Knight version of this might be okay. The you know for fantasy sake with swords type thing. Jordan, I saw that you were in the chat earlier. Shout out to you. Uh, so uh, maybe you have some suggestions as to what we could name this. But yes, we're looking for that. I do want to suggest us having a segment every week called Dunking on Dunk, where
Yeah.
we give one of Egg's one liners where he's just completely making fun of him.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good.
So what's your top one?
I would say this week, I think it's from all the commercials where he goes, "Do you know all the Knights of the Seven Kingdoms?" And he goes, "The good ones,"
Yeah.
which is a
No, that's
clear
the
indication
absolute
you
slam
ain't.
dunk on dunk right there.
Yeah, so I anticipate more of those. So I hope we see more of those as we go along.
I like that. I don't think that I think that's their entire dynamic if we get into it. But I mean, we got glimpses of what may come next here too, because you get kind of a preview of what's to come, the lead up in the battle to that tournament. It seems like he's got to find some sort of benefactor, and the only real outlet that I think he has at his side is his like relationship with Lionel Baratheon, and that coming to focus so quickly in this show. I think that that's going to be a big turning point for him. But I want to see what happens there. If that this is maybe used as like a jumping off point for the Baratheons kind of taking umbrage to some of the other families that have looked down on them, like the Lannisters. I want to see if this is like what starts that kind of friction there that ultimately leads to them battling for that throne.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, the Baratheon guy, very interesting to me. Excuse me. They were, you know, just the way that he acted and the dance thing was hilarious. I loved that. Uh,
Hmm.
if you want us to dance, that's going to cost you guys money. Um, but if the number is high enough, we could be talked into it. But
Probably.
but I thought that was a great little sequence, and that's just kind of the way of them kind of feeling each other out. They always talk about how in shows that like your fight choreography is very much like dancing, where it's a move and a counter move, and you're very much kind of with your partner, kind of stepping through things. And we actually kind of got to see that here, where I think they wanted to show some type of conflict. They didn't want to get into the fisticuffs too early because like you said, we don't know how experienced of a fighter that he seems to be. So we don't really want to see him get his ass handed to him maybe day one, show one. But if we see him kind of dancing, we get the idea that for a big dude, he moves pretty good. Um, you know, so and it took him a minute to figure out that the guy was stomping on his feet to try and get a rise out of him. And then when he finally kind of fought back, the guy's like, "Oh, now we're into it," and then they kind of just went off. So I do think that they kind of use that as a parallel as opposed to having a fight scene in this particular episode.
No, that's interesting. I like that analogy there because that makes a ton of sense. But you also see that when he's challenged, he doesn't back down. He wasn't like, "Oh, well, this guy is a king. I shouldn't like overstep here." Now I'm using your metaphors all over the place, Doug. But I shouldn't overstep here and cause a problem or a scene, or there's no larger ramifications to him stepping on this guy's foot. He just does it because he challenged him in a moment and he just re- replied and did it on reflex. So I think that that is something that shows you he does have a spine and there is like a little bit of a courage, a conviction there of he's just going to do what comes natural to him. So maybe there's something there that'll help him out long term.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we'll see more of that kind of confidence grow. We don't see a lot of confidence out of him from the get go, so we'll see. Kind of be interesting to watch how that arises here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. All right. Anything else in the episode we wish to discuss?
I think the only thing that's really caught my attention is that Lannister mask that they've highlighted throughout the promos and then in the upcoming episodes. Just one hell of a mask. It reminded me of the first time I saw Darth Maul was in a magazine before I even knew Phantom Menace was a thing, and I saw just the makeup and like the paint on his face, and I was like, I gotta know what this is before I even like put together that it was a part of Star Wars. So that mask is phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to their first like interactions with seeing like the jousting because the reaction from Egg is awesome. Like that's like as that doesn't look like acting. It looks genuine. Like couldn't believe what he saw. And so I'm really excited to see what this looks like. I think our only interaction with jousting is early on in Game of Thrones
Mhm.
where there is that small tournament there and it ends badly for the jousters. So we'll have to hope that it goes a little better than that for our guys.
Yes. And shout out to the young man who plays that. He's only 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and he shaved his head for the part. So there are no bald caps. That is him. So doing a really good job. He really sells that part. And I'm interested to see kind of watch his career now kind of grow and see kind of where he goes after this.
One thing that I think I'll be keeping an eye on in the next couple episodes is something that you brought up earlier here about the mentoring side of things and how he didn't have a mentor. And it seems like Dunk's first inclination to literally any like response from him is, "Well, I'll hit you," or I'll make sure you pay," or something like that. He hasn't actually done anything like that. And we also get that glimpse of, like, the cutaways of, when he's first burying his master. "You never hit me when I didn't deserve it." Well, except that one time. And yeah, so that's where his frame of reference is. If he's going to be the mentor he never had, what does that look like? And how does he become that when he's never seen what that template looks like? I think that'll be the most interesting aspect of this show is their relationship and how it's going to be different from what he already has witnessed, and how does he decide to be somebody different? Maybe that's what his true courage or his true, like, growth will be, is not just becoming this knight or being this person who wants to be virtuous. It's that relationship with somebody who needs him, that he does better and treats them better than he was treated himself.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's an excellent point, and probably a good one to finish the night on. Can't get much higher.
All right. Yeah, there you go.
All right. So thanks to you everybody for who turned in, all two of you. But thank you for everybody who tuned in. We will. This is obviously going to be on the YouTube and on Facebook, because you can always come back and check in with us. We'll be back next week after we've seen next week's episode. We're watching along. Obviously, we don't have access to trailers or any of the kind of the fun stuff yet. But yeah, so hopefully we'll see how this goes, and we'll see what next week brings us. So until then. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.